Whatever, mom. Oh no.
Woman kills side chick after catching her and husband in the act on their matrimonial bed. This is the tragic story of Tyra Chanel Crosby, a 25-year-old woman whose life was cut short in a brutal act of violence. Tyra was tortured and gunned down by Stephanie Alexander, a 51-year-old married woman who came home from work and found Tyra in bed with her husband. It's a story that will shock you, make you angry, and leave you wondering how a night out could end in such horror. So, buckle up, hit that subscribe button, and tap the like button for more real raw stories like this one. Also, drop a comment of where you're watching from. I'd love to hear from you. Let's dive into the heartbreaking events that unfolded in Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte is a big, bustling city, the largest in North Carolina. It's not the state capital, but it's got a reputation for being lively and, unfortunately, dangerous. Crime here is no joke. The violent crime rate in Charlotte is 34.3 per 100,000 people, way higher than the national average of 22.7 per 100,000. That means you're more likely to run into trouble in Charlotte than in many other places across the country. It's a city where people live big, but sometimes that comes with a dark side. Tyra Chanel Crosby came into this world on August 28, 1997, right in the heart of Charlotte. To those who knew her, Tyra was a spark, a young woman who lit up any room she walked into. According to them, she was the kind of person who lived life loud and proud, always chasing the next good time. Friends described her as happy, outgoing, and full of energy, with a smile that could make you forget your troubles. Sure, Tyra had her struggles. She'd had a few run-ins with the law in her younger years. Nothing too serious, just enough to make her life a little messy. But those who loved her said she was turning things around, getting her act together, and trying to build a better future. Tyra wasn't perfect, but she was real, and people loved her for it. On the night of July 18, 2023, Tyra was in the mood to let loose. She wasn't the type to stay cooped up at home, scrolling through her phone or binge-watching TV. No, Tyra loved the nightlife, the music, the energy, the chance to meet new people and feel alive. So she got herself ready, probably threw on something bold and stylish, and headed out to one of Charlotte's hottest clubs. There was nothing wrong with that. Tyra was young, single, and free to enjoy herself. That's where Tyra met Albert Alexander, a 50-year-old man who was out living it up, just like her. Albert wasn't some random stranger in the crowd. He stood out. Maybe it was his confidence, his charm, or the way he carried himself like he owned the place. Whatever it was, Tyra noticed him, and he noticed her right back. Their eyes locked across the crowded club and something clicked. They started talking, laughing, maybe flirting a little. One drink turned into two, then three, and before long, they were dancing. Tyra Chanel Crosby had no idea the man she was dancing with, laughing with, and following home from the club was hiding a big secret. Albert Alexander, the 50-year-old charmer who swept her off her feet that night, was married. Not just married, but happily married, or so it seemed, to a woman named Stephanie Alexander, 51. Albert wasn't just a husband, he was a stepfather to Stephanie's 5 kids from a previous relationship. People close to the family said Albert was a good guy, the kind who stepped up for those kids like they were his own. He loved them, cared for them, and built a life with Stephanie in their home on Porter Street in Northwest Charlotte. But on the night of July 18, 2023, Albert decided to throw all that away for a fling, and Tyra would pay the ultimate price for his betrayal. When Tyra and Albert stumbled into his house, still buzzing from the drinks and the music, they picked up right where they left off at the club. The chemistry was electric, and Tyra, caught up in the moment, felt safe with Albert. They laughed, they kissed, and they ended up in the bedroom, tangled in sheets that didn't belong to just Albert. Tyra had no clue she was in Stephanie's house, no clue she was in Stephanie's bed. How could she? Albert never mentioned a wife, never mentioned kids, never gave her a reason to think this was anything but a fun night with a guy she met at the club. To Tyra, this was just another adventure, a chance to feel alive under the neon glow of Charlotte's nightlife. But that all came crashing down in the early hours of Tuesday morning, around 5 a.m. Stephanie Alexander, who'd been grinding through a late shift at work, walked through the front door of her home on Porter Street, exhausted and ready to rest. Instead, she got the shock of her life. There in her own bed was her husband Albert with another woman, a younger woman, Tyra, who was now caught in a nightmare she didn't see coming. Stephanie's world turned upside down. The betrayal hit her like a freight train, and her anger exploded. She didn't just yell or cry, she unleashed a rage that would change everything. What happened next wasn't quick or clean. According to a chilling voicemail Tyra managed to leave for her mother, Tanya Hoskins, Stephanie didn't just snap. She attacked Tyra with a fury that went beyond a heat-of-the-moment reaction. The voicemail, which police have kept under wraps and haven't released to the public, paints a horrifying picture. Tyra was beaten, tortured, and terrorized for what felt like an eternity before Stephanie grabbed a gun and shot her dead. This wasn't a split-second decision, not a crime of passion that flared up and ended fast. The voicemail suggests it was drawn out, brutal, and deliberate, a nightmare Tyra couldn't escape. After it was over, Stephanie picked up her phone and called 911, reporting what she'd done. The police arrived at the house on Porter Street where they found Tyra's lifeless body in a scene. Tyra's mother, Tanya Hoskins, was devastated. She couldn't believe Stephanie was back on the streets so fast, while her daughter's body was barely cold. Tanya wasn't about to stay quiet. She handed over the voicemail Tyra left her to the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, demanding they listen to what really happened. That voicemail, Tanya said, proves her daughter didn't just die. She was tortured, beaten for a long time before being shot. Tanya believes it shows Stephanie had time to think, time to stop, time to choose a different path. In legal terms, that's a big deal. A crime of passion might get you a manslaughter charge. But when you take your time, when you drag it out like that, it starts looking like premeditation. And premeditation means murder. Tanya wants justice for her daughter, and she's fighting to make sure the world knows the truth. She's adamant that Tyra wasn't some homewrecker who broke into Stephanie's house. Tyra was invited by Albert, a man who lied to her, who never told her he was married or that the house belonged to him and his wife. Tyra wasn't sneaking around, plotting to ruin anyone's life. She was a young woman who trusted the wrong person, who thought she was just having a fun night. Tanya says her daughter called her in her final moments, leaving that gut-wrenching voicemail where you can hear the sounds of Stephanie's attack, the blows, the screams, the horror, before the fatal gunshot. Tanya believes this evidence will force the police to take a harder look at the case and upgrade the charges against Stephanie, who was at the time facing what Tanya calls the lowest form of murder. The aftermath of Tyra Chanel Crosby's death on July 18, 2023, left her family shattered and determined to fight for answers. Tanya Hoskins, Tyra's mother, refused to let her daughter's killing be brushed off as a simple crime of passion. She turned over critical evidence to the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, CMPD, pushing for the truth to come out. That evidence, a chilling voicemail left by Tyra during the attack, changed the course of the case. It showed a brutal, drawn-out assault far beyond a momentary lapse of judgment, and it became the key to unlocking a heavier charge against Stephanie Alexander. Tanya's persistence paid off. On August 3, 2023, the Mecklenburg County Grand Jury reviewed the evidence and handed down an indictment for second-degree murder against Stephanie. This was a major shift from the lesser charge of voluntary manslaughter, which often leads to a slap-on-the-wrist sentence, sometimes as little as 2 to 4 years in North Carolina. Second-degree murder, under state law, implies intent and could mean decades behind bars, potentially up to life without parole in severe cases. For Tanya, this was a step toward justice, a sign that the system was starting to take her daughter's death seriously. But it didn't erase the pain of knowing Stephanie was out on a $250,000 bond, free to walk free. A single pause could have saved a life, but instead a young woman was lost forever. Tanya is fighting not just for her daughter, but for others caught in Charlotte's rising tide of violence. In 2023, the city reported over 1,100 violent crimes, including 76 homicides, according to CMPD's annual crime statistics. Tyra's death is one of those numbers, but to her family, she's not a statistic. She's a daughter, a friend, a vibrant soul whose laughter could fill a room. Tanya hopes the trial will bring a reckoning, forcing the courts to confront the full weight of what happened that night on Porter Street. She wants Stephanie to face a punishment that matches the loss her family feels every day. We hope justice comes swiftly for Tyra Chanel Crosby. Our deepest condolences go out to her family and friends who carry the heavy burden of her absence. May Tyra's memory be a blessing to her mother, Tanya, and all who loved her. May her life and tragic death spark change, pushing for stronger laws and protections to stop gun violence from stealing more lives. Dear viewers, do you think justice was served? Do you think it was just for her husband, Albert, to walk free? Let me hear your thoughts in the comments.